Cynthia McFadden teaches at Wesley Middle School in Sanford, North Carolina. In 2009, she received the first Dave Jones Award for her work using newspapers with her students and her collaboration with other teachers. Each day, her students spend 12 to 15 minutes reading from the newspaper and answering comprehension questions. Ms. McFadden chooses a story, feature, editorial, letter to the editor, column, or a collection of comics, writes the questions, and shares the stories or text and questions with other teachers. She explains what she does in her classes and why she does it in this interview. Ms. McFadden, what's your background?
My background is I went to University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill many years ago. Did not get a degree in education at that time. And then around the age of 40, I needed something to do as my children were growing up, so I did get a teaching certificate. Went on to get masters in national boards and certification in English language arts, social studies, and AIG instruction. And here I am teaching middle school.
Describe your students in school.
Okay, my school is a public school. Our demographic is one-third Hispanic, Black, and Caucasian approximately. We have about 700 kids on campus this year.
Why do you use newspapers?
I use newspapers because the overall goal of education, as I see it, is to connect kids to real life situations, to connect the curriculum to the kids to real life, so when they walk out of the classroom they will be knowledgeable about what's going on in their world, and they'll be able to make good decisions based on their connections to world events.
Step by step, how do you organize and carry out lessons that incorporate newspapers?
Well, this year I get a class set of 30 papers on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And from those two sets of papers, I can mine lots and lots of good articles to use for reading comprehension. So I select the articles, come into school early, and read the articles and write 4 or 5 questions to each article. And these questions are based on the released testlets from the Department of Public Instruction, and those questions, of course, are aligned to the curriculum. So I have 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade English language arts classes, and they all get the same testlet with different outcomes, and we use it different ways, and I'll explain that later. But after I've finished writing the testlet, I copy it and lay it on a table just inside the door. And when the kids come in, they know to pick up a testlet and a newspaper, to go sit down in their seats, to read the article, to respond to the testlet questions, and that's like 8 or 10 or 12 minutes depending on the length of the article. And then we discuss. I have a student comes up, they volunteer and take charge to come up and lead the discussion about what's the right answer, and any kind of tangential comments about where a wrong answer came from, or wanting to debate and challenge me on an answer, and that's tends to their goal 1 in the English language curriculum of leading a conversation in a group of format for students to express themselves. So that serves that purpose. The kids are trained. They know that we're going to do this every single day, and what they're basically doing, in addition to having interaction with the skills that their curriculum requires, they are storing information in their databases that we can then pull up and use in crafting our arguments that relate to literature or anything else that we're doing with writing. They can go back and cite what they've read in the newspaper in their essays and their writings. And so I feel like it's probably the most valuable 10-12 minutes of any day is their use of the newspaper as a reading content piece, a piece for them to launch into opinions and discussions, and then their writing. So we get a lot of birds with one stone by just interacting with this daily single piece of writing from the newspaper.
After the students discuss the piece, do you take up their work, their work with the tests? Do you record grades from that?
It varies. If all the kids feel pretty good about how they did, then of course they want me to take the grade, and I'm very happy to do that. If there was a question that their logical thinking differed from mine, and they can present a cogent argument about what they did or why they chose an answer, then I might say, that was a bad question. Let's ignore that one. Sometimes they want to play a little game we play for 30 seconds of turn to a partner and share your answers. If you don't have the same answers, argue what you're thinking, your point of view, and then I say, time's up, final decision, make your choices. They love to do that. Sometimes if it's an unsettling kind of, I don't get the feeling that they really got what I wanted them to get because of my poor crafting of a question, I'll just say, toss it. We'll talk about what's in the article, but we don't need this for a grade. This is a tool for kids to get a positive grade if they want it, or if it hasn't gone well, either on my part or their part, or for whatever reason, we don't have to take a grade. So it's pretty much the kids have input on how we manage this, and because of that, they like the testlets. Typically, they do very well. And another benefit of the testlets from my perspective is I don't have to spend a lot of time reviewing for end of grade tests because we're essentially doing it every day with the testlets. And so, if any teacher wanted to go, and obviously teachers have the curriculum, if they want to go to the curriculum and use the goals in the curriculum, the terminology in the curriculum to craft 3, 4, 5, 6 questions on a newspaper article, then you've done your review. It's an ongoing review, and the kids are ready for the EOG. And so what I say to them is, okay, kids, you know how to do this. We've done it every day. Make sure you read carefully. Take your time. You're going to be fine. And they are.
What are some of the terms that you would review knowing that they're likely to see them in?
Well, these are words, yeah, in the tests. The tests are made by teachers, and the questions on the EOG come straight from the curriculum as applied to the selections in the test. So we're going to see things like our very good old friend, the main idea. We're going to see what was the author's purpose, why was this piece written, particularly in comics. That's so rich for practicing literary devices and figurative language, and so the kids love those. We can say if there's an expression in a piece, like that's no skin off my nose happened to come up today in class, and we'll talk about an idiom and how that's a literary device, and it's just a daily practice, and all of those terms are in the curriculum, so you can just make yourself a little list of those terms and have these little generic questions. What's the main idea of the piece? What's the author's purpose? An analogy, what's most similar to this relationship? What's the effect of using a pun here or there? So it's not as difficult. It seems you could almost have a template of questions that you could just plug in the connections to the article and put them out there.